Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the stream, everyone.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited you're here today.
How you doing, Sarah?
You know what? I'm doing really well. The sun is shining and we're reading a nice weird story today. I have some tea. Life is good right now. How about you?
I love that. I love that. Yeah, life is good. I feel good. It's a great afternoon to be talking about larger than oneself. Our story
Mm.
this week. If it's your first time here, Sarah, Ray, Warner, and I, we're here every week reading short stories, talking about them from the point of view of writers, week by week, working our way through this anthology of horror short stories. Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, it's been a really good writing week. I
Ooh.
feel grounded, focused, things are happening. And honestly, I feel on the cusp of a major insight, which is that I've been putting in these live streams. So I've been live streaming every morning,
Yeah.
working for good chunks of time. And I now am giving myself way more permission to not be upset if I don't reach certain goals because it's like, how can you possibly be upset with yourself? You are sitting down at your desk, putting in the time, reading, writing, submitting for 15 hours a week. So it's just like, okay, the pace is the pace. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Ooh.
like kind of my big thing. If it's your first time here, we're going to start talking about the story shortly. We'd like to let folks get in a little bit, and Sarah and I each talk about our writing life a little bit. So yeah, the discussion about this book will start shortly. And if you didn't read it, no stress, because
Yep.
Sarah and I have gotten relatively good at paraphrasing, sharing quotes, passages to convey what's going on. I mean, how's your writing week been, Sarah?
My writing week has been weird. I keep I don't know. I sat down this morning to write and I was actually at your live stream because I thought some accountability might help. And I ended up just getting like really frustrated and angry with myself because I was having trouble focusing. And it's one of those things where you're not sure like, is it me? Is it my surroundings? Did I not get enough sleep? Like, is it ADHD? Is it any of these things? And it's so frustrating for me. I'm a very problem solving person. So if there's a problem, I want to know how to solve it. And for this, when you can't pinpoint the problem, it's hard to pinpoint a solution. So I ended up doing some administrative work. So I got stuff done and I felt productive, but I think what I'm going to do is after our stream today, after these I tend to get like really excited about story and I'm like maybe I'll just do a little bit of writing after our stream today.
Oh gosh, I hope that's the case for you. I feel inspired by this story as well. That's amazing.
Yay.
So should we dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. If
Let's
you're
dive
if
in.
you're here, let us know in the comments. Let us know whether or not you read the story, or you don't even have to say that. We're just excited that you're here with us, digesting great classic horror literature.
I'm glad, actually, that's a great place. A little needle to enter this because horror literature, it's really interesting. If you threw this story in front of me, this is like it reminds me of one of those like you taste Pepsi versus Coke or something like that. If you put this in front of me, I don't think I would file it under horror literature.
Oh my gosh.
You
Okay,
know what I
Asa.
mean? Yes.
Okay, I told you yesterday, I was like, I have a lot of hot takes about this story. That was one of my hot takes.
This
Is
was
if
one of
you
your
put it,
hot
like,
takes.
literally, if you put this story in front of me, I would not classify it as horror. Now,
Okay.
okay, I know what I would classify it as. What would you classify it as?
Oh gosh. It's a very society piece. It's very society. It's very
Yeah,
society, like society mystery.
yes. Mm-hmm.
It's giving like Austin meets Knives Out vibes to me.
Yes, yes, very socially aware. For me, I saw it as completely satire. Like,
Oh my God, do I not understand the entire thing? Really?
oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's
It
the whole
just
thing is just making fun of I think we're gonna get into it
I
today.
feel like I'm about to be enlightened.
And
All
I
right.
might be wrong
Yeah.
too. We have to remember Sarah is often wrong. And
I mean, or
so
it's all of the
maybe it's
above,
not.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
what we've seen from these stories is that they frequently are succeeding on several levels.
that's
Right.
true. And some of them aren't succeeding at all. And we've
And
had those as
some
well.
of them are failing. And some of them are failing. All right, so this is Larger Than Oneself by Robert Aickman. Okay. And just this is a long story. I'm gonna do my best here. Hey Jimmy. Hi, welcome. Jimmy writes. Jimmy, I'm gonna honor and acknowledge this comments here. Thank you for putting in your input here. This story, folks, the kind of like 2 cents on it, or the summary is that we have a okay, what year are we in, Sarah? Did you get a
Well,
sense?
okay. This is the story was published in 1966. However, I had the feeling that it took place in the early 20s. That's what it
Okay.
felt like to me. It
Okay.
had a very F. Scott Fitzgerald giant party thing, and I don't know if that's my own biases or if it was intended.
Okay. I'm with you there. I think
Okay.
pre-war is fair to say. Pre-war United States. It's a party. Sort of a party, kind of like a salon. It's the kind of party I
Mm.
personally would love to be invited to. It was a gathering of really smart people in this mansion to argue about all things spiritual. And by all things, I mean everything from conservative, Orthodox, Anglicans to folks excited about the occult. And this man, Vincent Kohner, who was the host of this, has a reputation for assembling these kind of gatherings to get curating a list of guests who have varying opinions to talk. That's the setup. That is the party that our protagonist, what's her name? Do we
Oh,
have a name?
Mrs. Iblis, which is at the center. It's at the center of the satire.
Yes. Okay.
Mrs. Iblis.
Mrs. Iblis. So Mrs. Iblis, this is the party that she's showing up at. And essentially, she has a pretty rough night. And she kind of bounces around like a pinball from unpleasant, awkward social situation to another. She gets sick, she gets drunk, she's hungry, she's awkward. And in the end, I'm not going to spoil it per se. We'll get to the end and talk about the ending. But then everything kind of coalesces into this kind of climax where all the spiritual conversation, comes together in some kind of supernatural force. So that's the story. That's the story that we're dealing with here. How is that, Sarah?
And I think that's really good.
What are some big things that I'm missing here?
Oh, a big thing is that there are 3 guests that show up who were not invited through a clerical error. So there's a clerical error, and 3 people show up to this party, this religious symposium. The point of this symposium is to create a synthesis of all religious and philosophical and occult thought. Vincent Kohner he's a newspaper guy, and he loves throwing fabulous parties and being seen in the limelight. Oh, that's interesting, Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy writes here. Jimmy writes is tuning in. If you don't see his comments, that's because we are streaming all over the place today. Sarah and I both have YouTube channels. Sarah is on Twitch. You can find us everywhere. Jimmy writes says, fun fact, Iblis is the devil figure in Islam. All right. This is good context. Did you know that, Sarah?
I did not know this, and I interpreted it in a very different way. And Jimmy, this is going to be, we're going to get, I think, a lot of very valid and very interesting readings out of this. So
okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So sorry, go on.
Yeah,
Sarah.
no, you're fine. So not invited to this party. I love that you called it a salon, because I think that's really what it is. Are Mrs. Iblis, who is a introvert. You get the sense that she's either married or a widow. We never learn her first name. She's just Mrs. Iblis. It's very above board. She's very polite. We discover as we go through the story that she is incredibly snarky and has a great sense of humor. I loved her. And we also have Mr. Stillman, who was not invited, and a girl named Ruth, who is also not invited. The 3 of them weirdly show up together. They show up at 3 p.m. Everyone at the party is already there. They've been there since breakfast. And there's a little bit of a snafu, but the host, being a kind and generous host, says, you know what, come on in. maybe you'll have a fun time here at the salon. And Mrs. Iblis has the opposite of that, as Asa has told us. Hey, Lore.
Hi, Lore Huntress.
Um, it turns out Ruth is one of the Orthodox Anglicans that you talked about earlier, Asa, and she is also. Oh my gosh! Everybody at this party is so. Their identity, I think, is tied up with their beliefs, and Ruth is very proud that she is a very conservative Orthodox Anglican, and Mrs. Iblis is like, oh, I'm familiar with your church. And Ruth is immediately like, recite all the articles. And Mrs. Iblis is like, what? And she's like,
yeah, go, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, I think it's also important to note, at least IMO, that Ruth is definitely the most erotic character in this story. There's a lot of under the surface sex and gender stuff
there is.
We definitely need to talk about. And so that actually immediately made Ruth super interesting. She's the one that's like, getting the squeezes and not saying no. And she's also the one who's asking our protagonist to recite religious doctrine. So I was really interested in what she had going on from the jump.
I love that you brought that up, because Ruth is a very interesting series of contradictions. It sounds like she's younger than everyone there, but Vincent Comer, our party host and newspaper magnate, seems to recognize her at the door. And he's like, Ruth, why are you here? Oh, you know what? You can stay. We need your point of view. And the first thing he does, his wife is here. His, I guess, servant or secretary Mavis is here as well. He just brings in Ruth and just kisses her. I want to read I want to read this, how he kisses her.
Yeah.
He says, Ruth, my darling, how lovely to see you. He kissed her mouth violently, but dispassionately. Did we ask you this weekend, or have you just dropped from heaven? And immediately you're just kind of like thrown between these two worldviews of like this like super prim conservative person who is just like greeted in this way by Vincent Comer. And it also made me think several things about Vincent Comer as well.
Facts. Agreed. Yeah, no, I mean, I just don't know if it's just that kind of day or something, but I just couldn't help but thinking, there's later when she's like on the Chase Lounge reclining. And I honestly just thought, I'm just going to say this, of like a high school party. And I was like, this is like the makeout corner.
Yes.
Everybody else is kind of hanging out and drinking. Yeah. And Ruth is back. Yeah. So we'll dive into all that.
We will. Yeah. We will.
So we've got the three strangers. They all come.
The third one being Mr. Stillman, who it is noted several times is Jewish. So I don't know if there's some anti-Semitism here or not, but I think it ends up kind of being important that he's Jewish. We will see. We'll see going forward here. But Mr. Stillman, everybody's names are significant. It sounds like Mrs. Iblis is doubly significant. I read her as I bliss, like your only happiness is yourself. I am the bliss. Jimmy, I did not know about the Islam connection, so I would have to do some research on that to see how I feel. Ruth is the daughter in a Bible story the daughter-in-law of Naomi. And Mr. Stillman is a very still man. He is a still, calm, level-headed figure throughout the entire story, almost to a point of absurdism. So those are our three uninvited guests that we shadow here through the story.
It's a wild one, y'all. It is a wild one. Okay, so I'm already feeling a little bit illuminated with your analysis of these names, how that they all have like very clear.
Well, okay. And I'm just spouting this like it's fact. This is my interpretation. Like, I just saw these names and that's just immediately how I interpreted it. And so other people might have extremely valid interpretations, or it was unintended and I'm reading too far into it.
Okay, Sarah, you don't have to like humilify your brilliant interpretation. It's cool.
Good.
It's cool.
Okay.
It's cool. Just write the thesis, get the the coolest thing about it.
I need my degree. No.
Yeah. So, okay, but and to support you and to further investigate here, I want to ask, because when you first asserted that this was satire left and right, it seemed like you meant that in many regards, not just the names.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
want to tell me, you want to tell
oh,
us about that?
oh, yes, I do. So we've looked a little bit at how Ruth identifies herself one way and then seemingly acts another way, but then also doubles down on the initial way by demanding people recite the articles of this faith that are not important. Um, and oh, so basically, yeah, Jimmy makes a good point. Interesting. Jimmy says to me, the uninvited guest is the only guest not interested in winning the religious battle royale. Religious battle royale is such a good way to put this. So Vincent Comer invited everybody to his house. I'm not going to remember the name of the house, but I think that's okay. For this religious symposium so that everybody could come to a synthesis. Everybody could agree on for be all end all religion and politics forever. And of course, we're human beings, and so that didn't happen. And it ends up being a religious battle royale. It ends up being everybody is talking at each other, everybody is shouting at each other their religious thoughts. Nobody is listening to anyone else. Yes, the uninvited ones are described as not being like the others. To Ace's point earlier, it seems like everyone else, at least the women in the story, are all wearing lingerie. They are all described as wearing nothing but lingerie. And even the nurse, who is a significant figure in the story. So, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Comer. Mrs. Comer used to be a nightclub singer, and Vincent Comer married her. They have a live-in nurse.
Right. Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's so hilarious. She's their live-in nurse, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's just in case we get sick." But she also like advises us on like dietary stuff, and she's just this like super hot, like she's wearing silk stockings and like uber high heels, and like and by her bed, because Mrs. Iblis ends up spending the night in her room in the nurse's room, and the nurse is named what is her name? Sister Nooper, I think, which is
Nunes or something.
Nooper. Yeah.
Nooper.
Sister Nooper. And I didn't know what to make of that name. So if you know, let us know in the comments. But yeah, she has
Well, we do have
this...
a really vivid character description. The screenplay version of this describes Sister Nooper as the bowel specialist, hot nurse with 12 disciples. Yeah, I mean, essentially.
There's
yeah.
a screenplay?
No, I was making that up. I was like, that, this would be like, like Sister Nooper, 34, the bowel specialist, hot nurse. That like snappy TV writing type stuff.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
yes.
The 12 disciples that Laura Huntress is referring to are these 12 hot men.
Hot men.
Who follow
they all look
her
like
around
Adonis.
all night long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and we know she's a bowel specialist.
A lot of babes at the party.
I just need to read. Can I read this real quick? Just because I cannot stop laughing at this. Sister Nooper's bedside book is entitled Bowel Discipline, a lesser work by a well-known member of the Labor Party. A realistic colored drawing on the jacket depicted the alimentary system surrounded by a luminous radiation. And later, there is another luminous radiation that happens, and it's just so hilarious. So, okay. I just had to read that part because I lost it.
I think this is me being defensive and reactive and disappointed in myself for not getting it. So I'm just gonna be like, where's the satire though, Sarah? What is being what is being satirized? Because I'm seeing the irony, I'm seeing the like humor, I'm seeing the like tongue and cheekiness tone. Yeah. But what's being satirized here?
Okay, so what's being satirized is, I think, and again, my opinion, this is just how I read it. What's being satirized here is an exploitation of religious beliefs to further oneself in the world. So Mr. Vincent Comer, our newspaper magnate and part-time philosopher, is throwing this party so that he can be seen with all of these famous, smart people, so that it even says on the first page, occasionally he would bring the uproar back to the point as he conceived it. He developed an exceptional eye for which view would prevail. So he always needs to be on the winning side of something. And that's just presented to us on the first page. And so how I saw this was people come together to talk about faith. None of them do so in good faith. everybody is here to yell their opinions at everybody else. Everybody is here to make themselves look good. Everybody is dressed to the nines. The women, again, are wearing lingerie at this, at a private party, maybe that's fine, but at a religious symposium, it just struck me as a little odd. And there's just so much. I don't even know if it's definitely satire. It's also just poking fun at how people take themselves and their delusions seriously. So we have a spectrum of, so we talked about Ruth a little bit. Ruth is this conservative Orthodox Anglican. And then we have, on the other side, we have actual cult leaders. There is this guy named O'Rourke, I think. And O'Rourke is a cult leader.
Yeah.
He believes he's a prophet. He believes that God speaks through him, and he is there to convert people to his cause. And one more thing, and then we can maybe talk a little bit more about this, is that not only is everyone there looking for power, they're looking to enhance their power. They're looking to enhance their wealth. Most of them, all of them, are extremely wealthy. There's a lot of like higher echelon people. There's a woman named Patacake who later we find out her name is like Lady Chauncey something. And it's like, oh, she's like important, but they call her Patacake. And so the wealth, I don't know. It struck me as very like Great Gatsby. And maybe that's why I thought this was maybe set in the 20s. But it's very like wild party, rich people having no idea what the real world is like, having no idea what consequences are, throwing themselves into religious and spiritual practice, not to deepen their faith or to seek meaning. They literally all want to become larger than life. They all want to glorify themselves. Right?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, I
Okay.
think one word I would just add here, and you said it at least once, but like status. It just feels so much about status. To try to get more specific around this idea of like wealth and power, it seems like they want to be seen a certain way, but to a really small group of people, right? This like recalls the way people talk about the radical left or something, where it's like there's this like the infighting or where it's just like degrees of a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
I can't think of another good example offhand, but these are all like, they're all like rich, fancy people that don't have anything to do besides like go to salons and like look really good and like like have homes with like staffs of 12.
Yeah.
Like that's a given for all of them.
Yes.
So it's like the way that they're defined is on a very specific like gradation,
Yeah. And that's why Mrs. Iblis works so well as our point of view. She's not necessarily our narrator, but she is our point of view for the entire story. And she is, again, like we mentioned earlier, she's introverted and she is just trying to socially survive throughout this whole situation. She is super uncomfortable at all times, but she tries not to show it. It seemed very like, British stiff upper lip, like, I'm not going to let you know that this is getting to me. But she is just like freaking out inside. She's hungry. The buffet runs out of food. She's upset. Okay. I'm trying to think like where we should go. Should we talk more about satire, or should we go through like the linear events of the story?
I think, let me provide option C here.
Oh, yes, please.
It is in this horror collection,
Yeah.
So, and I was never scared per se, but there is a significant supernatural element. I'd love to like kind of,
yeah.
All right, we've seen it as satire. What's the horror side of it? Even if it's horror satire or something. Jimmy writes in regards to the last bit of the conversation here, they want to be the head of their own movement with the wealthy Comer as their first acolyte. Comer wants the same thing, but he wants to take that position from all of them, like he could sift them and own what is left.
Yeah.
Comer's a really interesting character. Yeah, I think we could definitely dig into him later. But
and we should.
because it doesn't feel like a cabin in the woods type
Mm-mm.
satire. This isn't a satire of the horror genre.
Mm-mm.
Like, what's it doing here? Why is it in this collection?
That is such a good question. I
In,
don't
in,
know. Yeah.
we usually get to the intro later, but let's.
Yeah.
David Hartwell, editor of this anthology, writes these nice little intros. So I'm just going to read it. It's not very long. About each of the writers. Robert Aickman was the great English master of the ghost story of the second half of this century, being the 20th century. Editor, theoretician, and writer, he never attained the recognition or popularity his immense contributions deserved, although he did win a World Fantasy Award. Da 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 da. A lot of fiction remains unpublished. Here's what we get from it. Larger Than Oneself is an ironic reinterpretation of the moral tale for our era. Mrs. Iblis spends the weekend at a convention of people interested in the supernatural, the metaphysical, and the occult, and finds it uniquely disturbing. Okay, so that could give us some clues here. A reinterpretation of the moral tale. All right, so the moral tale would be like, here's a story that teaches us something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And so then what are we? Yeah, I don't know. Can we get anything out of that?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. There are as easy it is to dismiss the horror elements because there is so much humor in the story. It does still have, admittedly, it has horror elements. Mrs. Iblis is unsettled for most of the story, but even in addition to that, when she goes into the billiards room where their buffet is set up, the lights aren't working and they're flickering and they're dim, and there's just a lot of strange little notes. At one point she like runs away from everybody and goes up to her room and decides to take a nap, and Mrs. Comer and Mavis, their, I don't know, secretary, aide, something like that, they bring her a glass and she drinks it and they essentially drug her. And so we're getting this sense that Mrs. Iblis is really helpless. And in fact, they often are, they also threaten to lock her in her room. And she says, "Oh, no, thank you. That's fine. I don't need that." And thankfully they don't. But Mrs. Iblis is not only like socially trapped here, she's also physically trapped here. She's being drugged by people who have intentions that we don't wholly understand. I don't know why they wanted her to stay or they didn't send her away out of politeness. We also then have some strange things that seem a little supernatural. So Sister Nooper, who is the nurse, the bowel nurse in silk stockings with her 12 disciples, there's a point where she's like sitting on a piano, like preaching to them. And she leaves at one point and all her disciples follow her and they're just gone for a while. And you get the idea that there's something going on that's much larger than we know through Mrs. Iblis's eyes. I think too, then there's an outright, are you okay if we talk about the ending?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there's also an outright supernatural cosmic horror thing that happens at the end of this story. The two people, Mr. Stillman and Mrs. Iblis, and correct me on any of this if I'm wrong, but all of the guests are still partying downstairs. Mr. Stillman comes and gets Mrs. Iblis, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? We should get out of here." Mrs. Iblis looks out of the window and sees that there's a strange light radiating, just like on the cover of the Bowel book. There's a strange light radiating from somewhere. She's like, "Oh, that's probably just the moon." And it's told to us in a way that we know it's not just the moon. And Mrs. Iblis then meets up with Mr. Stillman and he says, "Come away from here. Something terrible is about to happen," essentially. And takes her up to the roof. And Ruth is there. Nope, Ruth is downstairs. Mavis is there as well. So Mavis and Ruth have sort of switched places. Mavis, Ruth, and Mr. Stillman go up to the roof like they're going to go watch fireworks or something. And there's a giant shaft of light. And the story describes it like a foot of God coming down upon a mountain. And so there's this huge shaft of light. All of the guests, except for these three, are downstairs by the front door. Ruth, as a sacrificial lamb, throws herself out at the shaft of light, and everybody else slowly follows. They are crushed against the side of the door and then absorbed into this shaft of light and are never seen again. In my understanding, in a way, they got what they wanted. They wanted to become something larger than themselves. They wanted a grand spiritual experience.
That's a cool one. I like that. Yeah. Sorry to stop you there. I think that's a really cool. I think that's a compelling thought. I want to engage with some of these great comments.
Yeah. There's some good stuff.
Do you want to read these, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put them up.
Or do you? Because I've been just gabbing them.
Yeah, sure. The horror. This is Jimmy writes. The horror to me is the building. The building bizarre dread as seen and felt by Mrs. Iblis. It reminded me of The Shining, especially the build-up to the unmasked climax in the Overlook Hotel. Yeah. Nothing works right in the mansion. There's a nutritionist, but not enough food except for cake. The lights don't work. Rooms are too warm or too cool. Unexpected guests. The one rabbi who stays, but the one who doesn't. Mrs. Iblis has to share a room with just one bed. It feels like Jackson's. This is Laura Huntress contributing. Thank you, everyone, for sharing their thoughts. It feels a bit like Jackson's The Summer People. Everything is slightly off kilter, then increases as the story goes on. I like all these observations. I mean, I think this is closer to what the story I was reading. Sort of oblivious to the satire.
Well, tell me more about that. Tell me more about your experience.
It really echoes what Jimmy and Laura here are saying, which is like there's just a series of increasingly odd things. And it's not just that they're unpleasant. They're like strange. And I think that we care about Mrs. Iblis. We can talk about how Aickman achieved that. This was a character that I cared about, that I was rooting for. And so when time after time she got put in these strange situations, it did create dread in a very significant way. Nothing happened to her. I mean, she faints, or passes out rather, and escapes. And I do think the escape, so the very end of this story, if you didn't get a chance to read it, is that, I'll read it to you. Unnoticed by the group of companions, the 12 hot guys, Mrs. Iblis slipped away. Rather than pass what was left of the night with such a happy woman, the hot nurse, she hastened to that room with the painted crucifixion in it. She stuffed her possessions into her suitcase, and she left the house by a window at the back, which had been carelessly left open by the hired staff. So that's how the story ends. She runs away, which is cool. Yeah. So I think that was my experience. Like I think Laura Huntress's comment about how the things kind of get weirder and weirder was meaningful to me as well. Yeah, and that was my experience. Yeah. Like I definitely had a pleasurable reading experience where I wanted to know what next. I was enjoying like sitting in these like weird images and sentences. That's what it was for me. Jimmy Wright says an Agatha Christie non-detective character stumbles into a Truman Capote dinner party and gets some Algernon Blackwood at the end.
That's perfect.
Somebody give this man a book to pitch. Laura Hunter says it definitely has a lot of black humor mixed in it too. I think so.
Can I tell you one of my favorite humor points, and then we get back into the serious stuff?
Yeah.
When sorry, one of my cats is acting up. They initially talk about when Mrs. Comer, or excuse me, when Mr. Comer entered Mrs. Iblis's life, it was through this spiritual party, and then later says Mrs. Iblis entered Coner's life in the usual way through the front door, and it's just like it's these little like spitting.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
I have a lot of LOLs in the margins here.
As do I.
Yeah. Um, so
Oh
that's
my God.
just
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was laughing here as well. Like when he's telling her what to wear. I
yeah.
don't know if you remember that passage. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So we have dread. We have
Mm-hmm.
dread. We have black humor. We have effective satire of a certain class of folks who
Mm-hmm.
likes to talk, who likes to one up each other. We have potentially a larger statement around careful what you wish for in terms of communing with the sublime or
Mm-hmm.
the divine, because you might
Yeah.
just get disappeared. This is cool. This is a cool story.
Yeah. And there's just so many, there's little things to appreciate, and there's more than we can enumerate here. There's so many instances of that humor. There's a German man named Dr. Borgia. So if you're familiar with the Borgias, um, he is a very German man. He's the principal of the Demokratische Religion Gesellschaft of Zurich. I don't know German. Sorry about that. And Mrs. Iblis is like, "Oh, how quaint. Do people often ask you if you're related to the Borgias?" And he's like, "Oh, I am. I'm one of them." This like very German guy. Um, yes, yes, the Borgias are my people. They're an old aristocracy family, my family, and it's like everyone here. And this all goes back to Sister Nooper, right? Because she is a literal poop doctor. Like she is literally full of it. And everybody here is literally full of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's
And she's
just,
the most desired person at the party
it is, I know,
simultaneously.
it is, it is. So everybody here is just under huge delusions, under huge pretenses, and they're looking for what they can gain. Every single one of them wants to convert everyone else to their way of thinking. Um, Sorry, I got so excited on this. I lost our thread.
Oh, I mean, threads. Who needs them? I mean, I we were talking about all kinds of things. I think, I mean, we got to the actual ending. We got to how it's a horror story. We can transition into, if we want, there are things that we can take away from this story as writers. Maybe it's premature for that. I think that, it's interesting, this recent analysis, in that, like, in a lot of ways, I wonder if this story is most successful in its kind of moment to momentness,
I think
which is
so.
to say it has a lot of good jokes and
Yes.
a lot of good beats of dread. I mean,
Yes.
we've seen horror movies that we would say, oh, you don't have to see that, but are filled with great set pieces.
Yeah.
Similarly, we've all seen TV shows that like don't really cohere, but the jokes are good. So
Yeah.
I like this story. I don't want to say that this story failed, but I think maybe that we can definitely say that it's doing that, which to me is a testament in terms of engaging with this story. What we learn as writers, like, virtuosity is real. If you can write
Mm-hmm.
good jokes and build dread, you might make it into an anthology. Even if the story sort of like maybe doesn't totally cohere, which for me it didn't. I guess I enjoyed it, but like it's not
Uh-huh.
like I was either scared at the end or felt something particularly.
Yeah.
The ending didn't deliver for me, at least.
It felt preachy to me, but
Oh, really? Full on preachy. Okay, say more.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to say too, initially when I asked you, like, oh, if it's not horror, what is it? You said mystery. And honestly, I think that, all the satire and humor and like aside, I think you're right. It feels more like a mystery. It's a setup for a mystery. And Jimmy even mentioned Agatha Christie too. All these strangers are gathered in a mansion. There's a thunderstorm outside. The power goes out. Like, I mean, it's beat for beat set up like a mystery, but there's no crime except for people being full of BS. Like,
Yeah, okay, right. That's a good. Okay, let's run with that. Let's say it's a mystery. So the beginning of mystery is there is a crime that must be solved. So to me, this did set up a puzzle,
mm-hmm,
in that for me the big puzzle was like, why are these guests here? like what's going to be the payoff of these guests.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy says the author actually prevented us from seeing the big events at the end. Well, we see.
I thought that was funny too.
What does that
I
mean,
keep
Sarah?
I keep interrupting you. I'm very sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. What okay, do you remember how we've read in Story Club, we've read writers like H.P. Lovecraft and a lot of others who follow this trend of saying, you know, oh, it was unimaginable and horrifying, but I'm going to try to describe it to you anyway. They say something is indescribable and then they try to describe it. This story just says um only Mrs. Iblis looked upward, and what she saw nearly finished her. And it does not try to explain it. Like,
Yes.
which I thought was very interesting.
Great point. That is a great point. Yeah, I mean, if we just loop back to the mystery argument, I think, yeah, what makes it feel like a mystery is like the tropes. Like we're in this house, there's a strange cast of characters, things are afoot. The payoff wasn't there. I just thought that something worse was going to happen that connected more directly with who Iblis was, but who we never really learned that much from. I mean, I was like, I kept that, I brought up Austin in this earlier, and I just kept coming back to like, there was so much about kind of clothes. There was so much about like eye contact between beautiful women. Like there's just like, or the lack thereof, right? There's so many of these little slights that happen. And that seemed, because we're telling this story through the POV of Iblis, that to me was like, okay, that's what matters. This is the value system of our character and the value system of this story. I wrote it down somewhere. Like,
I love this.
What I'm being told. This is what I've been being told to care about. And it's interesting. Like, I don't think I would ever talk about this if I wasn't reading A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf right now. But in this like very, that book was written more than 100 years ago. I think like she's talking about how only women can write women, or that, but a certain kind of female experience I thought was like really elegantly rendered here, which is like a woman at a party surrounded by men who just want to talk their ear off and don't, and anyway, all of this felt like what it was about to me. And so then at the end, the ending had nothing to do with any of that. And I think if it had, I think I would have loved it, because I loved the depth of that analysis in the story.
I love this. I think you're right. I noted several times how this felt like, they call Jane Austen's work like novels of manners. And that's manners, politeness, how to, interact with society, how to build power in society. And all through this, Mrs. Iblis is so obsessed with saying please and thank you. She's super uncomfortable, but she's like, I love my mom. She's like my mom in that she continues saying please and thank you, and then slowly gets snarkier and snarkier, and actually kind of like she's throwing a lot of shade near the end, which is really hilarious, but she never breaks her manners. And I think that for me, Asa, I love that you brought up this point about writing women and women having agency in this story. We've read a lot of horror stories where the horrifying point of the story is that your agency is taken away, and that's what's scary. But through this story, Mrs. Iblis is continually making choices. She makes a choice. She's uncomfortable with a lot of it, but she makes a choice to like go check out the buffet. She's offered cake, and she's like, I don't want cake, but I'll eat the cake. And she decides to eat the cake. So she's given limited choices, and she does choose them. She chooses to continue to be polite to people. Like, she is in control of herself the entire story, unlike everyone else. And I just thought that was so interesting that Mrs. Iblis actually draws strength from those manners. Like, her manners are what allow her to have the limited power that she does. When they poison her and drug her and then threaten to lock her in the room, she just says, oh, no, thank you. That won't be necessary. And they can't refute it because it's perfect politeness. Like, she gets her power from like her politeness. And even in the end, she faints after seeing the indescribable. And then that passage that you read at the end, Mrs. Iblis makes a decision, and
Yeah.
she decides, I'm gonna leave, and she frickin' leaves.
Yeah.
And this is a story about, and I think that there's also something interesting going on with her and her discomfort with Sister Nooper being like happy, ostensibly like post orgy. Like she's very uncomfortable with that. But, you know, she has her power. Sister Nooper has her power. They show it in different ways. But yeah, Mrs. Iblis is completely, despite the dread, maybe that's why I didn't feel it was horror, because I felt like Mrs. Iblis was in control. She was in an unpleasant situation, but she was in control of her choices. Right, Jimmy, this
That's
is a
true, but
good, yeah,
she's in control, but she's frequently like afraid.
she is afraid. Yeah.
So I think that's where, I mean, that's like the classic horror stuff. It's like, give us a character that we care about and make them afraid, and we will feel afraid for them.
Maybe it's less that, so she is afraid. Maybe it's just more that she's also not helpless. Maybe that's what it was for me.
Which I think makes a great horror protagonist.
Yeah, I do too. She's active, like in her own weird, like Midwestern mom kind of way. Like,
Yeah.
I love
It's
that
funny.
Laura
That's an
said.
interesting,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm, I spent my high school years in Ohio as well. My folks are from the Midwest. I feel you on that, but I also think that as much as it is Midwest, it's like a class thing. I think the Gatsby thing, it's like, this is like, it has a degree of that Midwest passive aggressive thing where, thank you. But it also is just like, I'm an effing lady, and like like you cannot outclass me. To me, that's how it felt, more in that direction. You're like, I was raised a certain way and I don't complain, and like I am gonna look good no matter what. There's that classic line that felt so contemporary where she's like, it's like she did what she could with her hair.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
I did. I loved that. I underlined that part, actually. It's just, she's permitted to be herself in this story. And that just, slight sidebar. Laura sent me a copy of one of Robert Aickman's other stories. So I've read a total of 2 of his stories. They are very different. The Coffin House is, to me, horrifying. It is true horror. And maybe that is what helped me read this as more humor and satire. It's because I've seen him write horror, and it's upsetting. It's deeply upsetting. This is hilarious, and all the people we care about are okay in the end, unlike this other story. And
so I want to hop in here because I think some people just joined the stream.
Oh,
today
perfect.
We are discussing Larger Than Oneself by Robert Aickman. This is part of our weekly series. Sarah and I are discussing horror short stories every week from the point of view of writers, working our way through this anthology. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Go on, Sarah.
I drop mine all the time. But yeah, so looking at the agency of Mrs. Iblis, looking at the agency of Sister Nooper, looking at the agency of Ruth. I was just looking at Jimmy's comment here. Ruth also makes a choice. It's all the women in this book that are making choices. And Mr. Stillman is the only man, I think, that we see make important choices. Ruth throws herself out to the beam of light, like as a sacrifice. But that's her choice. She wants it.
Well, and she leads the way. And I think what you said earlier about, like, in a lot of ways, all these people wanted, she actually has the courage when it comes to it. When, I'm sure there's lots of like great mystic writings in this direction. Like when the encounter with the divine happens, they are ready, and she is that. She's the martyr.
Yeah. Yeah. She's here for it. She's ready to get absorbed into this pillar of light. Do you have any thoughts on Mr. Stillman?
Okay, so I wanted to know more about him. I'm like, if you're going to make him this important, and we're going to come back to this, like, the way I read it was Ashkenazi Sephardic. So
what does that mean?
Well, those are the two. I'm going to speak to the extent that I understand this.
Yeah, please.
If someone is more educated on this, please let me know. The two ethnic threads of Jews. Most Jews, I think all, fall into one of those two categories, and it's like what part of the world they came from, that kind of thing. That's how I was reading this like divide.
Oh,
I think, but I might be wrong about that, because later I think there is a clarification around, it was more about uh, the orthodoxy or lack thereof.
mm.
The actual, sorry, there's a siren.
Oh, you're fine.
And anyway, where I'm going with this is like we're going to revisit this like motif about Judaism and how this guy Stillman is a Jew, not only a Jew, a certain kind of Jew that's like upsetting. Like we're going to keep talking around this guy, but he really doesn't have any. He's not in the story, and except for the very beginning and very end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the story kept suggesting by attention that he was important, but then his actual importance, I didn't understand it. In some ways, he does save them, and he's like, "All right, get away from this light. Let's go to the roof so we don't get killed by the alien, like angels." But I don't know. I didn't need him in this story. Like or actually, let's take a humbler view here. I didn't understand how he was functioning. So I would be curious if you do, or if anyone does have a little bit of a more keener understanding of how he functioned.
Can I share my thoughts?
Please.
I have so many opinions. Okay. They talk. Okay. Mr. Stillman, I saw is, so Mrs. Iblis is our everyman. Mrs. Iblis is a normal person. Mr. Stillman is a little bit into religion and philosophy. And I think he's more prepared to be here than Mrs. Iblis is. And he is, at the end, as one of the uninvited guests, but still in the know as to what they're talking about, he remains uncorrupted. And I think that, so if I may read just a small passage. So Mr. Conner is sobbing, and he's very sad and upset, and he's talking with Mrs. Iblis. She does not want to be around him. He's like making weird comments that she should dress in a better way that more suits him, and it's creepy and weird. And Conner, she asks if there's anything she can do to help. What can I do? Afraid, like most women, to go too far in sympathy lest the sympathy be misinterpreted, which by Conner, of course, it would be. She had never in her life gone further than this. Conner began to babble distressingly of his littleness and inadequacy, his responsibilities, his uncertainties, his health troubles. The human mind is such a minnow, he spluttered out. If only one could find some all-embracing pattern to guide one. And Mr. Stillman stands up to Mr. Conner. And I think this is his role in the story. He says...
No, wait, but what does he do? Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, he corrects Mr. Conner, and he says, no, the human mind is a whale. I'm at the bottom of page 239.
Yes.
The human mind is a whale. The speaker was Mr. Stillman, who had entered the large, murky room unnoticed. It was the first time Mrs. Iblis had seen him since her arrival, Asa, to your point. He looked businesslike and prosperous in his well-cut dark suit. He carried his copy of the Jewish Monthly. The human mind is a whale, said Mr. Stillman again. It's, turning the page, it's all there inside you. Enormous unknown things difficult to reach, and woe betide the man who looks outside of himself for what he can only find inside. That is surely one thing which modern psychology has made clearer than ever. The subconscious mind, is so much larger than the conscious. And then he says, cake. Can I have some?
Okay, this is good. This is really, this feels like you're onto something here, because early in the story, and context here, Sarah's father, the pastor, I wrote a whole series that takes place in the Christian church, and I went hard learning about theology. There's a lot of rigor in terms of the religious ideologies in this story. Like on page 229, I mean, there's this lengthy conversation about the articles of the Anglican Church is no joke. This is not like a passing analysis. And so I'm wondering here if this is actually some kind of explicit assertion around like a certain kind of Jewish thought that actually is superior to all these fools babbling at the party. You know, on 238, the avant-garde synagogue, something entirely new. It's a great mistake to ignore what the Jews are doing. I mean, that feels like very like flippant
Yeah.
and offensive today, but I wonder in context of this story if it is actually like, y'all, like they've kind of figured some stuff out from a metaphysical perspective because they are the ones that survive in the end, or like in this little story, right? Of course. I don't know. I'm just trying to like make it make sense.
Yeah. Well, maybe so, but yeah, maybe so. For me, it struck me as more the author like taking the psychological side of things and saying like you're all trying to find in religion what you can find in psychology and actually have it make sense. But maybe even more than that, and I don't know enough about Judaism either to talk intelligently about that. But I think that he ends up uncorrupted. Mrs. Iblis gets away, and Sister Nooper, who again finds joy within herself and her 12 disciples. I don't know. I think that's all pointing in that direction. And it's not so much religion versus psychology, I think, so much as it is your intentions for using those things. Like
Okay, right.
so it's not, oh, psychology is rational and it's better than religion. It's Mr. Stillman uses psychology, rationality, and maybe it does have Jewish roots. He uses that to say, like, you need to like look inside yourself for meaning. Like, stop yelling at all these other people and trying to convert them into your cult. Like, you need to look inside. You're not small. You're important and you matter. You're not a minnow. You're a whale.
Right.
And
Great metaphor.
yeah, and it's at the end, I think it's worth noting, Mr. Koner, I believe Mr. and Mrs. Koner also survive. After all the people are absorbed up into the column of light. Is it really? Jimmy says, weird fun fact, Sister Nooper is an anagram for priest nurse.
Anagrams? Are we dealing with anagrams now? Oh my God.
Is it at that level? Are we at that level?
I guess
I mean,
we are.
that's what she is. She has a cartoon. It's not a painting. It's a cartoon of the crucifixion above her bed. And it's...
I do want to see the short film of this.
I do too. But yeah, so we're looking at... Oh, I had to find my train of thought again. Mr. Comer and Mrs. Comer survived. Mrs. Comer went to bed early, shut her door, just ignored everyone, and took a bunch of drugs. And so she's passed out. Mr. Comer, all of the people at the party, the forum, as they're called en masse, and I think there's 50 of them, all of these people go outside, get absorbed by the column of light. Mr. Comer doesn't go with them. He stays in the hallway crying that he can't be larger than himself. And it's like, my dude, if you step out the door, like, go be absorbed in the big column of light. This is exactly what you wanted. And he's just crying in the hallway. He says, Mr. Stillman shut the open front door. Please, God, said Koner in a weak and sozzled accent. Please, God, give me something larger than myself. He's praying for this thing that's like happened literally right in front of him and is somehow unaware of it. And so I think that there's something to be said about, not seeing what's right in front of your face, not understanding truths like that's anyway. I just thought that was interesting that both he and Mrs. Koner also survive.
I think so too. I think that's notable, right? I mean, at some level he's like playing them, in the sense that he manufactures these dinner parties. You know what I mean? Like he invited all these people. He did this with other sets of people.
Yes.
Besides, so he's got to like erase. He's got to move on to the next batch. Yeah. Just really want to, Laura Huntress. Just wondering. I think I've screwed up. I think I put it in wrong because I put together the link very last minute, and I'm always saying EST, but I live in CST, so I think that's on me. And apologies to you, Mateo, as well, if if uh, if you missed it. Yes, an interesting conversation today. You know, yeah, around religion in this story for sure. For sure. Yeah, I hope at no point we said anything that wasn't true. You know, we're doing our best here to
Yeah.
understand this story with the tools we have.
Yes.
Um, okay, let's turn
Yeah.
to what can we get from this as writers?
Ooh.
What kind of technical things, thematic things, things you felt that you want to be like, oh, I want someone to feel like that. Anything for you, Sarah, really emerges here?
Yeah. Honestly, you put into words something that I like felt through the story and didn't know how to articulate. So earlier when you said this story is more like the pieces than the whole, like these little hilarious jabs by Mrs. Iblis, these little details, um, they kept the momentum going in the story. I kept reading because it was so enjoyable to read these little things. Overall, not sure if the story, like plot wise, it doesn't measure up to the fun experience that I had reading it. And so I just think that it's not something that I noticed when I was reading it that I think I'm going to take away writerly wise. And I don't know if you can use that purposefully, if you can say like, yes, I would like to add more details to distract from like the larger narrative, but just even being aware that that can happen, I think is a really valuable lesson.
I like that.
Well, and I
Yeah.
got it from you, so thank
Well,
you.
no, well, yeah, I appreciate your articulation of it. That's really useful. I think for me, what this story does well is it balances like show like in playwriting and screenwriting. I mean, in both of them, you have images, you have stuff what's happening, but by and large, there's just dialogue. There's no one to explain to you how to interpret the lines, right? So the lines have to do all the work, and the lines do a lot of work in this, but they also are augmented by strategic dashes
Hmm.
of, for example, let me just read it. She's
Yeah, yeah.
talking, Iblis is talking to a server, and she's like, what do you got? And the server's like, there's some cake. Thank you, I'd love some cake. Again, however, she felt that there were, at the moment, more desirable foods, which speaks to your point of her eminent politeness, but and also speaks to what I'm saying now, which is that like there's no actor to show us that
Hmm.
she doesn't mean it.
Hmm.
The TV show, the HBO show, Nicole Kidman says, "I'd love some cake," and we know that she doesn't want some cake. But
Yeah,
here we don't
yeah.
have anything, so we do have this is how prose functions. I mean, for me, this is just
Hmm.
clocking that and just kind of like, okay, where does the line do the work, the dialogue, and where do we need to explicate the dialogue for the sake of clarifying what's happening? So that was good for me.
I like that.
That was useful because this is a really dialogue forward, scene forward story. I think Jimmy
It
Wright
is.
says the story IMO is less a story about religion and more about how humans manipulate religion to aggrandize themselves and how that might attract attention we might not really want.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah, I think you've been really sort of echoing that with a lot of your thoughts as well.
Yeah, definitely. Can I ask you one more question?
Here for it.
Okay. As far as things we're taking away from this story, what do you think made Mrs. Iblis such a likable character?
I mean, she's just on the level. She's just not full of it.
Mm,
Like she's like she's the only one who's like not full of it, really. I mean,
yeah.
Stillman and Ruth kind of are like also they have agency. Everyone else in this at this party is like long gone. It's like not someone you want to be talking to. They're a
Yeah. No.
blowhard. They're like deluded. Coleman is just crying uncontrollably. It's like you said, she's in control. She's making choices,
Hmm.
and she's just kind of not a bum socially, right? Everyone in this story is either like selfish, rude, arrogant, talks too much. They're just not the kind of people you want to be hanging out at a party. So it's like I'm going to the party with
Mm,
her because the
mm-hmm.
story is in her POV, and I'm like,
Mm,
take me along.
yeah. Okay, I appreciate that. I'm always curious about why. Well, and we've talked before about unlikable main characters, unlikable protagonists, what makes somebody likable, what makes them unlikable, and how can we how are we basing ourselves in them? How are we rooting for them? So I appreciate your take on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like cool
Mm-hmm.
with Mrs. Iblis. You
Yeah.
know, she's like the cool chick.
Yeah.
She's like, I have better parties to be at, but I happen to be at this one. And so I
Yeah.
was like, I'm on board. I really think actually that was kind of a driving
Mm-hmm.
success of the story for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was very well drawn, I thought.
Yeah.
She because somebody with that much forward politeness could come across as unlikable, snippy, prissy. Like there's a lot of ways to do it wrong, and I think that this did it right. So I appreciated that.
All right, y'all. Another week in the books. Next week, queuing up, we have a story called The Belson Express by a writer named Fritz Lieber. The first sentence. George Simister watched the blue flames writhe beautifully in the grate, like dancing girls drenched with alcohol and set afire, and congratulated himself on having survived well through the middle of the 20th century without getting involved in military service, world saving, or any other activities that interfered with the earning and enjoyment of money.
I love him already.
George.
I love him already. And
All right, yeah.
Oh, his last name, Simister. Like really?
Right. Yeah. Big on the names here.
Yeah, I keep seeing it.
So we'll be here, folks, probably same time next week. Our lives are full of things, so it could evolve. Apologies again for giving the wrong link, and I'll get a link up sooner next week so that we're all on the same page. There's a Discord server that this community of readers and writers participates in, the Public Writers Workshop. You can find information about that in the video description. We'd love to have you. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's a great idea, Sarah. We can just put it into the stream right now. Yeah, so the conversation continues there, and it's a really great time. It's a really great time.
Yep.
Any parting thoughts, Sarah?
If you have 10 minutes, I would read The Coffin House. It's like
short.
5 pages. It's so short. It is almost flash fiction. Read The Coffin House. It's free. There's a link to it, both narrated and the story, that you can read in our Discord, which we just linked to. Read it and then let me know how that affects your view of this story. I'd be very curious.
Bet.
Okay.
As they say, I will do that.
Yeah, because you need more things to do.
Hey, listen, you gotta make time. You gotta make time for good stories. That's all
you do.
We're running out of time. Okay, y'all. Love you, mean it. We'll see you soon. See you next week. Bye.
Bye for now.